promise, patience, they go together. So does faith and trust. A seed is a promise. A seed can be planted, and we expect it will grow into a flower, a vine, a tree. Take the story of Abraham. Now unto Abraham and his seed were the promises given. God promised Abraham a son, a seed. In fact, God promised him that his children would be as the dust of the earth. Today he's called the father of the faithful, but he had to learn the lesson of trust and patience. Well, nearly 10 years passed, and Abram complained, "I go childless. There must be some problem here. Where's the promise of his coming? I'm almost 100 years old, and Sarai, no way." Abraham had an idea. Let me adopt my servant Eliezer as my son. If we can't produce a child, then let me adopt another, a transplant, grafted into my family tree. But God said, no. He that shall come forth out of your own body shall be your heir. No substitutes. Sure, you can call him your son, but that's not my plan for you. I promised you a real son of your own. Trust me, I can give life to your dead bodies. I call those things which are not as though they were. But Sarah remained childless. It's hard to keep believing the promise when it seems to be broken. Could you keep believing a promise year after year? But then Sarah had an idea. If this promised son can only come forth out of her husband's body, she offers Hagar, her Egyptian handmaid, as the surrogate mother. We can make this happen. We can do this. Well, Abram hearkened to the voice of his wife, Sarai. Where have we heard that before? Adam, because you have hearkened to the voice of your wife, you must suffer the consequences. And so must Abram. There was no alternative to God's plan. No adopted son. No proxy son. God promised him a real, literal son that would come forth out of Abraham and Sarah. Her name was changed too. Well, it's been nearly a quarter of a century since Abram, now Abraham, was given the first promise of a son. But the fullness of time has finally come. The Lord pays Abraham and Sarah a visit, and God promises to return about the time of life. Now, why did God have to return at that time? Because this was a miracle birth. Isaac was born only by the direct intervention of God. Isaac received life from God. Abraham had no life to give him. And with the deadness of Sarah's womb, she had no life either. Only God, who can give life to the dead, could give life to Abraham's son. As the Father has life in himself, so he has given to the Son to have life in himself. God gave life to his son. He could give life to Abraham's son as well. And God said, "Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest." Can you hear the voice of God saying, "Behold, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased, in whom my soul delighteth"? Take now thy son, not a son by adoption, not a son by do-it-yourself creation, but a real son, begotten out of your own body, and offer him up unto me as a burnt offering. Trust me, Abraham. You finally received my promise to you. Now I want you to understand how much I love you. I spared not my own son, but offered him up for you. Will you spare not your own son because you trust me? Will you, against hope, believe in hope? And Abraham rejoiced to see that day, He saw it and was glad. Can you see it? If you do, you will be glad too. The story of Abraham and Isaac assure us that God does not have a son by adoption as Eliezer would have been, nor a son by creative devising as Ishmael was, but a divine, eternal Son who came from God Himself with all the inherited life, with all the love, with all the authority, with all the qualities of the divine, infinite Father. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac, all his faith and trust in the Heavenly Father. Jesus said, "All things are delivered unto me of my Father. For the Father loves the Son and has given all things into His hand." Our Father in heaven has promised us His seed to remain in us. He who spared not His own Son, but offered Him up for us all, will He not also with Him freely give us all things? Have patience in His promise. Trust in His seed, and He will take root and grow in you.